Look at this map. This narrow sliver of water, barely 21 miles across at its tightest point, is arguably the single most important place on the entire planet, and most people have never even heard its name. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Every single day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through this one channel. That is 1/5 of all the oil the world uses. And here is the part that should keep you up at night. Tankers have burned in this water. Mines have drifted through its shipping lanes. Warships have been swarmed by drones. It sits wedged between rivals who have spent nearly half a century threatening each other, and in early 26, after a war with the United States and Israel, Iran finally did what it had only ever threatened. It closed the strait. For the first time in history, Hormuz went dark. Ships turned back, mines went into the water, and oil blew past $120 a barrel, the largest supply shock the oil market had ever seen. And yet, it could not last. Within months, the tankers were moving again. Because closing this strait is one thing, keeping it closed is another. There are 6 reasons Hormuz can never stay shut. 6 forces that drag it back open, no matter who tries to hold it closed. And you will want to stay for the 6th. Because it is the one reason nobody expects. And it is the reason the country everyone feared was the first to reopen the door. But before the reasons, you need to see the problem. The strait sits at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. On the northern shore, Iran. On the southern shore, Oman, and the tip of the United Arab Emirates. At its narrowest, the 2 coastlines are barely 21 miles apart. And the shipping lane the tankers actually use is just 2 miles wide, in each direction. 2 miles. For the ships carrying 1/5 of the world's energy. And when that lane closed, the price of oil did not rise. It detonated. Analysts had warned a full closure could send crude past $150 a barrel. In 2026, it started climbing straight toward it. And that was never a Middle East problem. It is a your-life problem. It is the price of fuel at a filling station in Lagos. The cost of groceries in London. Airline tickets, plastics, fertilizer, shipping. Everything built on cheap energy, repricing at once. A wave of inflation, triggered by 21 miles of water. So with stakes that high, and a war that just proved it can happen, why does the oil always come back? Why can no one keep this strait closed? Reason 1. The countries inside the Gulf are trapped. Start with the exporters. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, and Qatar. For these nations, the Gulf is a kind of cage. Enormous reserves of oil and gas, with almost no other way out to the open ocean. Qatar alone ships nearly 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas through this strait. If Hormuz stays closed, their economies do not slow down, they stop. So the countries who live on this water need it open more than anyone. Their entire survival depends on it. Reason 2. The East cannot afford a single bad day here. Because the oil does not stay in the Middle East. Follow it, and it flows east. Overwhelmingly east. To the engines of the modern economy. China, India, Japan, and South Korea. 4 of the largest economies on Earth, fed by one narrow channel. Their factories, their power grids, their cities. Every one of them is quietly betting, every single day, that Hormuz reopens fast. Reason 3. China is watching over it. China is the biggest customer of them all. It imports around half of all the crude that leaves this strait. Which means the lights, the factories, the entire industrial machine of the world's second-largest economy runs, in part, through a 2-mile lane. Beijing does not want this water closed. And when the biggest buyer on the planet wants the oil flowing, that pressure is felt on every shore of the Gulf. That is 3 reasons. Halfway there. And remember, the 6th is the one that changes everything. Because so far, every reason has been about the countries that need the oil. The last reasons belong to the countries that can force it back open. Reason 4. The most powerful navy on Earth patrols this water. In the 1980s, during the war between Iran and Iraq, both sides began attacking oil tankers in the Gulf. It became known as the Tanker War. Hundreds of ships were hit. Mines drifted in the shipping lanes. And the United States was pulled in to escort tankers under its own flag. It has never really left. And in 2026, when the strait went dark, the American Navy moved straight back in, escorting ships and blockading Iran's own ports in return, until the cost of keeping Hormuz shut became impossible to bear. Closing the strait means facing the American Navy head-on, and no closure has ever survived it for long. Reason 5. There is no plan B. You might ask, why not just go around it? Build pipelines. Bypass the strait entirely. They have tried. Saudi Arabia has an east-west pipeline across the desert. The Emirates have a line to the port of Fujairah. But together, these bypasses can carry only a fraction of what flows through Hormuz. A few million barrels a day, against 20. There is no getting around the strait. There is only the strait. And because the world has no real alternative, the world cannot let it stay closed. Which brings us to reason 6, the strangest one of all. Because after everything, one country still looks like the obvious villain: Iran. The country sitting right on top of the strait. The country that, whenever it is cornered, reaches for the same warning: close the strait. But here is what almost nobody realizes. Iran needs it open more than anyone. Iran's own oil, the exports that keep its economy breathing under crushing sanctions, leaves through the very same strait. And most of it goes to the one customer big enough to keep buying: China. So when Iran sealed Hormuz in 2026, it was choking its own lifeline and punishing its most important ally in the very same breath. Which is exactly why its own tankers were among the first back through the strait, quietly carrying Iranian crude to China even before the fighting had fully stopped. The one country with its hand on the world's windpipe is the one country that cannot afford to squeeze for long. That is the 6th reason. Not warships, not pipelines, not money. A trap so perfect that the strait's greatest threat became the fastest to reopen it. And so the tankers keep moving. 20 million barrels a day, threading a 2-mile lane that the whole world, even its enemies, needs to stay open. 21 miles of water. 6 reasons it can never stay closed. It went dark once, and the oil still came back. And now that you know why, you will never look at this map the same way again.